My name is Amy Cly, and I am the Chief of the Division of Drinking and Groundwaters here at Ohio EPA. I also have Colin White with me, who's the manager of our emerging contaminant section, and he's going to assist with some of the questions as we go along. I just want to say good morning and thank you for taking time to join us today. I know many of you on the call have a lot of questions about this effort, and I'm hopeful the presentation will address many. We will have time at the end to answer questions, and our entire Ohio EPA team stands ready to address your follow-up questions, whether in person, on the phone, or email after this event. So this presentation and the recording will be posted on Ohio's PFAS webpage soon. And again, enter your questions as we go along.
Thank you.
Got it. Okay, sorry about that. So during this webinar, we will provide background on Ohio's PFAS efforts and then get into the details of the sampling project, including the sample collection process, results notification, and management of data, response to detections, and public water system expectations. We'll also talk about the resources available and to the public as well as the water systems, and then close with the QA and remaining time. And as we walk through this project, I would also like to acknowledge that we have a large team here at Ohio EPA across all of our district offices with support up to our director's office working on this important project. So many of you on the call are familiar with PFAS, but for those of you who the term is new, it represents a group of synthetic man-made organic chemicals. These were originally developed in the 1940s and over the years have been used in many products in commercial and industrial uses. PFAS have unique properties, which make them so effective for their designated uses, such as stain and water resistance, fire and fume suppressants, nonstick pans, and many other applications. Their chemical structure also results in very stable and persistent chemicals that are difficult to break down. So due to these properties, they are sometimes called forever chemicals. Like many emerging contaminants, the science and understanding of the toxicity and the fate and transport in the environment is limited, but it is rapidly evolving for PFAS. It's currently, and I underline currently for a reason, unregulated in drinking water, but that's on the verge of changing. As yesterday, US EPA announced its intent to develop drinking water standards for at least 2 PFAS compounds, PFOA and PFAS. Timeframes for development of the MCLs are currently unknown, but expect we're going to hear a lot more soon. So last fall, Ohio's Governor DeWine asked Ohio EPA and the Ohio Department of Health to develop an action plan for PFAS in drinking water. This plan was released in December, and this sampling effort is a governor's initiative and a critical first step in implementing the action plan. If you haven't already read the plan, it's easily accessible on Ohio's PFAS website and outlines 6 objectives and strategies. On this slide, we highlighted 3 of them that are uniquely tied to the sampling effort, including gathering, providing sampling data for water systems to determine the extent of presence in drinking water, establishing action levels for drinking water to aid in appropriately responding to PFAS contamination, develop and disseminate educational information to the public, increase awareness and understanding of PFAS and relative risk of exposure through drinking water and other exposure routes. And there's also additional objectives, including working with communities to do preventative and long-term measures to reduce PFAS risk. We're also going to be working hard to stay on top of all of the rapidly expanding knowledge and regulatory framework. And there's also a component to assist private well systems or private water system owners with guidelines and resources to help them respond. So we'll be referencing this website several times during the presentation, but it really is your best source of information regarding the sampling effort, as well as a great resource for information on PFAS from both Ohio EPA and Ohio Department of Health, pfas.ohio.gov. So one of the big questions we're getting is who is going to be sampled? Which water systems will be sampled? We are going to be sampling over 1,500 public water systems, and this includes approximately 970 community water systems. All community water systems are sampled except for those who purchase water or are consecutive water systems. Additionally, all non-transient, non-community water systems will be sampled. This includes approximately 610 systems. And there's approximately 250 of these systems that serve schools and daycares directly. So even if your system is not one of the 1,500, I recommend you become familiar with PFAS and be aware of the ongoing efforts to regulate it in the future. It's not a question of when, but it's now a question of when and not if it will be regulated. So when are we sampling? Under the governor's initiative, we need to complete the sampling by the end of 2020. We have been working hard to get this project started and began sampling February 11th with a small set of water systems. The 250 schools and daycares are scheduled to be sampled by the end of the first quarter. And as we refine the sampling process, we are expecting the number of sites sampled per week to increase during the second quarter, when we will start sampling the community and the remaining non-transient, non-community systems. So where are we going to be sampling at the water plants? We are planning to sample finished and raw water. Finished water samples will be collected at the entry point taps, which should be familiar to water systems as a sampling location for many of their routine compliance samples. At some of our larger water systems, there may be multiple entry point taps, and we will be sampling each facility. We are hopeful to get raw water sampled at most facilities, and this sample will be collected at raw water taps or sampling ports where readily available. We recognize that some systems have multiple wells and switch or blend sources routinely, but due to the time and resource limitations, we will only be able to sample the sources currently in use with a readily accessible tap. Many systems may want to conduct further source water evaluation of each of their sources to better inform their contingency planning and source water protection efforts, and we highly encourage this. So what are we going to be analyzing for, and what method are we going to be using? For this project, we are going to be using US EPA's method 537.1. And while the method is capable of providing results for up to 18 PFAS compounds, we are going to be evaluating only the 6 parameters addressed under Ohio's PFAS action plan, and for which we have action levels established. This table on the slide shows the action levels, and you can see there's a lot of variability between parameters for the 6 compounds. The reporting level is 5 parts per trillion for all the compounds except for Gen X, which is 25 parts per trillion. And this table is pulled directly from the state's PFAS action plan. So in order to meet the governor's directive to complete the sampling by the end of 2020, we decided to utilize contractors already under contract with the Ohio EPA under our existing level of effort state contracts. 3 contractors are supporting this project: Brownfields Restoration Group, Mannix Smith Group, and Tetra Tech. All contract personnel have received in-person training on the unique sampling protocols required for PFAS sampling. Additionally, contractors are under close Ohio EPA oversight through our Ohio EPA contract manager, our project QA officer, and an auditing team. So for labs, we are going to be using contract laboratories due to the large number of samples for the project. All results from the contract lab will be submitted through the sampling contractors and then to Ohio EPA. Labs must be NELAC certified or approved by Ohio EPA. Any confirmation sampling will be conducted by Ohio EPA and analyzed at our lab in Reynoldsburg, Ohio. Due to widespread occurrence and cross-contamination risks, PFAS sampling requires strict adherence to quality control measures. For this project, we have developed a comprehensive quality assurance project plan, or QAP, and we have also developed a detailed sampling SOP. As As I mentioned, all contractors and Ohio EPA sampling crews have received this training. All PFAS results will be carefully evaluated at several steps, and only after passing all steps and final approval from the Ohio EPA quality team will they be made available. We also have the ability to resample quickly and analyze at our lab when needed. So how will water systems be contacted and scheduled for sampling? All water systems will be contacted by Ohio EPA, either by phone or email, and we will provide information about the sampling, guidance on how to prepare for sampling, and when to expect results and next steps. Ohio EPA will let you know which contractor will be calling, and in some cases, we'll be able to tell you what individual will be calling you. We have developed fact sheets for water systems as well as school and daycare administrators, and this will be provided in advance of the sampling. The contractor will then call the water system to schedule the date and time. It is very important that water systems are responsive to the contractor and provide knowledgeable personnel or staff to attend the sampling. We are working toward providing several weeks of advance notice so water systems will have time to communicate to their customers in advance. However, I'll acknowledge that those systems involved in the first few weeks of sampling have not been afforded very much notice while we work to refine the notification process. I greatly appreciate their cooperation and patience as we work through this initial process. And as with any sampling project of this scale, we are rapidly improving the communication outreach as we go. To help water systems prepare for sampling, we have identified several key steps. Identify and label, if possible, the entry point and raw water sample taps. Ideally, taps will have 9 inches of the clearance to reduce the risk of cross-contamination. Remove any PFAS-containing supplies or equipment if possible. This could be challenging for some facilities if the taps are located in a broom or utility closet, which may also house floor wax or other potential PFAS products. The contractor will need to purge the system and run water to ensure we are sampling freshly treated water. We need flushing for at least 20 minutes if the system has not been actively producing water. For example, a school system would not typically be running during the night, so we would need to run water in the morning and prior to sampling. If a system has been actively producing water, the contractors will need to run the taps for at least 2 minutes to ensure they are properly flushed and new water is being sampled. So when can you expect results? Contractors will collect the samples and then ship to the laboratory. We expect to have results within approximately 4 weeks, although it could be sooner depending on lab capability and capacity. If the preliminary results prior to all verification steps indicate that a finished water detection at least 50% of an action level is likely, the lab will call Ohio EPA to provide notice that the result is coming. This advance notice allows Ohio EPA to provide early warning to the water system as well. All other results will be shared with Ohio EPA and then the water system after sample review and verification steps have been completed. It's also important to reassure the water systems that you will receive results prior to posting on the webpage. Now let's walk through several result and response scenarios. This is the scenario we expect to encounter most of the time. If results for all 6 PFAS compounds are below the reporting limits, Ohio EPA will receive results from the lab and then notify the water system via phone or email. We'll then send a letter to the system with the results. Results will be loaded on the PFAS webpage, and no further response will be needed. This next scenario is response to detections that are less than 50% of the action level. Ohio EPA will receive the data results from the contractor and then notify the water system by phone or email. We'll then send a letter communicating the results and explain any follow-up requirements. Any finished water detections, ODH and local health district will also be notified. And while these levels are not above the action levels, any finished water detection may cause inquiries by your customers or public. So we are coordinating with the Ohio Department of Health to develop outreach materials and have already posted several tools in the PWS toolbox to assist in the messaging, including template letters to customers. We anticipate that water systems will also utilize source water protection efforts to develop long-term strategies to address potential contaminant sources, even if they have low-level detections. So this scenario represents a finished water result at or above an action level, at or above 50% of an action level. As I described earlier, this will trigger Ohio EPA to mobilize a sampling crew to collect a confirmation sample that will be delivered to our lab and analyzed. We expect results back from our lab within a week of collection. As soon as the water system receives the initial notification, they should locate and review their contingency plan, review source and alternative water options, and begin developing customer messaging. Of course, Ohio EPA will provide technical assistance. There'll be a relatively small window between the advanced notification and the confirmation results to prepare, and we, along with the Ohio Department of Health and the local health department partners, will work with the water system. And also, as our state and local departments are notified, we'll be pulling together coordination calls and begin setting up to develop those messaging and outreach strategy. So again, I've talked about this coordination sampling or confirmation sampling that Ohio EPA is going to do, and just to reiterate the steps of how that will work. We'd mobilize a sampling crew when we receive that advance notice phone call. We expect those results within a week. And there may be additional follow-up sampling depending on the results, including sampling additional raw water sources or conducting treatment train analysis. And one thing I want to point out is if we trigger into the confirmation sampling where we have an initial finished water detection at 50% of an action level, our follow-up is going to be pretty rapid. So we are going to be looking to get out within 24 to 48 hours to conduct a confirmation sampling. So obviously, if we have an exceedance of an action level in finished water, this will trigger a much more robust response from all parties. Cross-agency and public water system coordination is going to be vital. Ohio EPA will be working hand in hand with the water system to develop a response action plan to quickly reduce those PFAS levels below the action level. Additionally, all state and local agencies will be working closely to coordinate messaging and outreach and developing that communication and outreach plan to the site-specific situation. So key steps for a water system if this scenario is encountered is to provide timely and accurate information to your customers. The water system should be the first to communicate to your customers. You should have a contingency plan that addresses contaminated source already, and we can provide assistance and facilitate additional assistance from EMA or others as needed. And finally, I can't emphasize this enough. All parties need to coordinate that messaging to ensure we are consistent, especially during an emergency. And that's why we have already been working since before the first sample was collected, coordinating with the Ohio Department of Health to develop messaging and tools. And we are having more come online day by day. So I mentioned several times that the results will ultimately be placed on the state's PFAS website and available to the public. Our GIS team has developed an application to post the data and show sampling locations. We anticipate that the base map will be available as early as next week, showing all the locations to be sampled, and that the data tab will be available within a few weeks once we have actual data verified and tested within the new application. It's important to note that individual production wells or surface water intakes will not be located on this map, just the general location of the water treatment plant. So in order to get a complete picture of PFAS occurrence at Ohio water systems, we are planning to conduct at least 1 year of follow-up monitoring at systems that have finished water detections. Detections would trigger quarterly monitoring unless those detections are over the action level. Then we will be doing monthly monitoring. In order to reduce the burden on water systems, we are proposing to cover the follow-up monitoring. We are working on the details for how this will work, and we'll share more information soon. This is also, of course, contingent on funding approval. All right, so for those systems that are required to produce consumer confidence reports, you will be required to report all PFAS detections from the sampling initiative in your CCR. We are going to be developing a template language, and we'll be making that available soon. We're also aware that some systems may be voluntarily monitoring for PFAS. We do not want to duplicate any efforts and would be willing to accept this data in lieu of doing our own contractor-assisted sampling if there are certain criteria that can be met. One, you need to use a collection procedure that's equivalent to our sampling SOP. You need to use US EPA method 537.1 from a NELAC certified or an Ohio EPA approved lab. Data sheets must be able to be provided to Ohio EPA so we can conduct a QA evaluation. Reported parameters must include at least the 6 that are included in the Ohio PFAS Action Plan. And you must allow us to post those results on our PFAS website for the public. So I mentioned earlier a PWS toolkit several times. It is located on the main PFAS website under a public drinking water tab. Currently, we have 4 template letters developed, pre-notification, and then 1 for results and then 3 for results depending on the level of the result. New tools are in development, such as frequently asked questions specific for public water systems. Now, if you have specific needs or suggestions for what would be helpful from a water system perspective, please let us know, and we can develop those and add them to the toolkit. As a reminder, here is the PFAS website, and I've highlighted the public drinking water tab. And when you click on the public drinking water tab and scroll down, you can get to the toolkit. To support public water systems that need to address PFAS, we recently set up a new loan program for PFAS remediation and are offering 0% loans. You can submit anytime, it's a rolling admission, and treatment and source water protection measures are eligible. So as we wrap up this presentation, I'd like to highlight some of the other resources available on the website. Again, I mentioned there's the toolkit. We've got information on current activities. It'll be the one-stop shop for results. We've got a list of Ohio EPA approved laboratories. There are a number of fact sheets which have been developed in consultation with Ohio Department of Health, PFAS in drinking water, reducing exposure, PFAS in sensitive populations, home treatment options, overview for physicians, and others are in development. There's a lot of folks working on this at the agency. Most of your water systems are aware of who your district contacts are. I've got the general numbers listed here. You may already have them on speed dial. Mike Profit is our contract manager and is available to answer any questions about scheduling or contractors. We also have a team in our engineering section working on treatment options, developing guidance and some white papers to assist water systems if they need to do treatment. You can contact our central office number or our lead engineer, Judy Stotsberry, via email. If you're a school or daycare administrator, please feel free to contact Bonnie Busker. She's our Southwest District Office Chief, but she's providing statewide assistance for this critical early phase of the project. So with that, I just want to close with a couple of statements. This project and our response are going to evolve as we move through each phase and we learn and we deal with responses to the results. We appreciate water systems assistance with this project as we go forward, and we look forward to working with you on this very challenging and new project. Hopefully with the news of regulatory developments on the horizon. This work will better position our water systems to be prepared for those future regulations.